Teflon was a brand name by DuPont that represents a slippery substance also known as polytetrafluoroethylene or PTFE. It was actually made accidentally by a scientist named Roy Puckett, and it is introduced as a slippery substance to the public in the late 1960s. It is a synthetic fluoropolymer that is commonly categorized as a fluorocarbon solid because it is a compound with high molecular weight. PTFE is hydrophobic because neither water nor water-containing substances can go through. It has that type of property because of the high electronegativity of fluorine. It also has one of the lowest level of friction of any solid, which makes up for its slippery property. The fluorine atoms in the PTFE are big enough to interfere with those on the neighboring groups. Its effect is to inhibit rotation on the carbon-carbon single bonds. However, fluorine atoms tend to line up so they are as far apart as possible. This rotation of the molecules would involve lashes, so the repulsions would lock the molecules into a rod-like shape, making the fluorine into very gentle spirals. It is a white solid at room temperature with a density of 2200 kilograms per meter cubed. Its melting point is 327 Celsius, and it maintains high strength, toughness, and self-lubrication at low temperatures down to negative 268 Celsius. PTFE has a carbon backbone chain with each carbon having two fluorine atoms attached to it. It is a polymer with repeating strands and it has extremely high density because it packs together to form tight crystal structures. The coefficient of friction in PTFE is equivalent to rubbing wet ice over wet ice together. Due to the fluorine atoms surrounding carbon, it is chemically inert because nothing can react with the carbon and their tight bonding. When fluorine is part of a molecule, it does not like to be around other atoms, even other fluorine atoms. Since Teflon is filled with fluorine, the chemical would like to be far away from other molecules, making the other fluorine atoms push away from each other, trying to get away and to go apart. Because of this, the molecules at the surface would repel any other molecular that tries to come close, and this is why nothing sticks to PTFE. Teflon is a type of polymer and not a molecule because the molecular formula is indefinite. It consists of long polymer chains of varying lengths with two polymer segments and two fluorine atoms that are tetrahedrally arranged around each carbon atoms in the chain. The bonding structure of PTFE is very stable and it is not very interactive to chemical agents because of the fluorine stability. The advantages of Teflon is included in the inertness of all chemical commercial items, such as acids and alcohol. It also has outstanding chemical resistance that has a low coefficient of friction, which contributes to its slippery substance. It is also known as the third lowest friction of substance in the world, and a high continuous use of temperature also contributes to its very high oxygen index. Teflon is one of the substances that is known to have the properties of fluorine and carbon, and it is known as a non-stick element that contributes to cookware as well. Teflon is nicknamed the substance that even a gecko cannot stick onto. The disadvantages of Teflon includes the high cost because of all the chemical processing involved to make the compound stick to the pan. It also has low strength even though it has a high density rate, and low stiffness because it is fairly flexible due to the continually rotating fluorine atoms. It also cannot be melt processed because of its high resistance in heat and poor radiation resistance, so it could have some health effects when using it for a long continuous period of time. The compound Teflon is produced by combining the three ingredients of TFE, fluorspar, hydrofluoric acid, and chloroform. It is combined in a chemical reaction chamber and heated until it is bonded together. The resultant gas is then cooled and distilled to remove any impurities. The process used to get this substance to stick into the metal relies on sand, heat, a vacuum, and sometimes even another chemical. One process encourages the use of sandblasting the pan in order to create an uneven surface that encourages the Teflon to stick. Then, the first layer of Teflon is sprayed and then baked at high heat in order for it to gain a secure mechanical grip. It is repeated once or twice before the pan is considered finished. A second method also encourages the Teflon to bake on the pan, but it first involves the act of sintering. That involves the subjection of a barrage of ions in a high vacuum under electric field. This forces some of the bonds holding fluorine atoms to break and allows the carbon underneath to bond with other materials like oxygen, helping the sticking of the pan. The third method is done with a reducing agent that brings strong bonds between the fluorine and the carbon that allows the fluorine to bond together. Since the fluorine are bonded, it leaves the carbons free and it is sticky enough to get the Teflon sheet to stick to the pan. The social factors that include the PFTE is involved in rumors between the increase of tumors in the liver, pancreas, and testicles to reduce fertility. Since Teflon has a low radiation resistance, it could also give out potentially harming energy waves if used for a long period of time and could pose harm as reported. Several cases over the past year have included statistics of people getting sick that corresponds with the increasing sale of Teflon pans, and it was investigated by the FDA, but they found no hardcore proof to back it up. The EPA has already issued a stricter limitation to the use of long-chain perfluorinated chemicals due to its health risks. It has been reported from Teflon itself that the use is a risk of fumes from overheating pans that gives people temporarily flu-like symptoms and sicknesses known as polymer fume fever, and these fumes does not contain any PFOA and are mostly noxious to birds. Teflon has properties that are suited to the job because of its non-stick components used in recreational activities. The non-stick sprays or Teflon pans prevent cake and food from sticking to the surface because that would greatly reduce cleanup. It would make the food to not leave some kind of residue because of the cohesive forces holding the water molecules together into droplets are far greater than the tiny cohesive forces between the water molecules and the non-stick surface. The very little friction between the PFTE and anything that comes in contact with it has virtually no forces, which makes it the perfect substance for the job of a Teflon pan.